Hi, welcome back to Country Basket Weaving. I'm your hostess, Sandy Atkinson. Today we're going to be working on a little basket called the Little Bucket Basket. Makes a nice little basket to put a little something in and give it away as a gift. Has a wire handle. We're going to get right at it. Our material and cut pattern for today is as follows. You're going to need 1/2 inch flat, cut 9 pieces 23 inches long. From 1 inch flat, cut 1 piece 23 inches long. You're also going to need number 2 round reed, 3/16 flat, 1/4 inch flat oval, and dye this your color choice. 1/2 inch flat oval, number 3 round reed or caning for your lashing, some seagrass, 1 4 inches high by 5 inch wide wire handle with a wood grip, and 2 ear attachments. Okay, we're going to get at this one today. I've already pre-cut my pieces here. And I've marked the centers. Remember, we bend it down. I line up our ends here and draw it up here and use pencil, always pencil, never ink, and put your center mark on there. On your piece that is 1 inch wide, you're going to find your center, put your pencil line, take some sharp scissors, and on the first half, we're going to split it right down the middle. And we're going to split it until it's about 2 inches from the center. You can probably just do this by eyeballing it. About right there. On the other side, take your 1/2 inch flat, one of your pieces you've already cut, center it right in the center. Take your pencil and draw on either side of it, like so, and come in here. Then take your scissors and you're going to taper it down, following these pencil lines we just put in. I'm going to cut this down on this side, try to make it nice and straight. When you get about 2 inches, you're going to come in here and just taper it off. You're going to repeat that on the other side. Keeping it nice and straight. And again, I'm going to bring and just taper that end off like that. You can discard those pieces. Take this piece and just set it aside for right now. We're going to take 5 of these pieces and we're going to lay them out spoke fashion. And I find the easiest way to do this is if I take my first 4 and lay them out like that, and then just make an adjustment like so, and that leaves me a space here for my 5th one. Wrong side faces up. Come in here and get some number 2 round. I have a piece here. I've chosen a longer piece because I'm going to start with 2 different end lengths and a center crimp, an off-center crimp actually. The reason I have the 2 different end lengths, remember, is so that they won't end at the same spot. Come in here with your needle nose pliers and put a crimp on it. Okay, let's just adjust this a little bit so they're all evenly spaced. My first spoke, I'm going to put a little mark up here like an SS meeting starting spoke. Loop my piece of number 2 round over it. We're going to just do a basic twining. Taking the one on the left, we're going behind the next spoke on the right. This first row is our most important row. We need to get everything nice and round because that's going to determine the look of our whole basket, this first row. I like to grab hold of it here and just give it a nice gentle spin. Always taking that left one. If you're a left-hander, you can easily reverse this twine. Just go the other way. You'll be taking your right piece instead of your left. When I get back to this side, I'm going to twine on my starting spoke, and then I'm going to stop. Take a minute and straighten things out. Now it's going to stay together because I've got it all twined. I'm going to come in here, make sure my circle is nice and round, nice and even. Do any needed adjustment, and then go on. Now that I've got this first row done, it easily spins around. And I'm going to twine this for 5 inches. And I think it's kind of helpful too if you take your tape measure and at half of 5, of course, is 2.5, so put my 2.5 in the middle. Put a little pencil mark there and a little pencil mark over here at 5, and that gives me some guidelines so I can just keep on weaving until I come to those guidelines. And we're going to weave for 5 inches. Okay, I've already done that, so we're going to go to head to our next basket, or our next portion here. When you have your 5 pieces woven on, and you're 5 inches out around here, then we're going to take our split spoke. Remember the one we split and we just got through cutting? And we're going to lay that in. Here's where I started. Here's my starting spoke. So I'm going to lay that piece in here. Line up my center. I can still see my pencil mark. I need to twine one more here. And I have an end here. Remember how we add ends? I'm going to snip that away. Then I'm going to twine in my newly added piece, fit it in tight, twine in the existing spoke. Work it down in there, make sure it's tight. Again, line up my centers, add a new spoke, twine my new spoke in, get it centered even, twine my existing spoke. I'm going to repeat that again. Line up my centers, twine my new one, my existing. I'm going to continue following this pattern until I get all my new pieces added in. One more. And twine in that piece. Now as I come around on the opposite side here, I'm going to be catching the tails. I ran out of length on this one weaver. I'm going to weave this one so my short length is on the left. Before I do that, I'm going to back up. I'll tell you why. I'm going to add a new weaver here. There's too much happening if I wait till I get on this spoke here, because that's our split spoke. So I'm just going to start. Remember, we pick up this end here, the short one that's running out, stick in the new piece, and just continue on twining. If this length is too long and gets in your way, just snip it off. Work everything tight. Now, this is my split spoke, the one that we split. I'm going to weave them individually now. The reason I'm doing this is because I want an odd number of spokes. So that when I do my twine, or my twill, pardon me, when I do my twill up the side, it can be a continuous weave. Fit that in. Line these tails up. These are the ends that I've already woven on the other side. Give it a spin, catching all these tails. Take a minute to look at it and to see that everything is all lined up. And I'm going to do one more row. I'm going to run out of a weaver here, so I'll be able to show you once again how to add that new piece. Okay, I'm ending up again at my split spokes, and that's a little tight in there, so I'm going to stop back one and add a new piece back a little ways. Remember, I'm picking up that end, adding the new piece in that little hole it creates when I pick it up, and continue on weaving. Let me get rid of some of this length in here. I can go back and do my final trim later when I finish the basket. Make sure all my twining is packed in tight. I don't like to see any gaps in the twining. And I'm coming up on where I started. This is where I started weaving. So I'm going to end cut my ends off using my needle nose pliers and a tool. I'm going to put a crimp on this piece here, which will make it bend without breaking. Give myself just a little bit of length. Bring in this piece, my tool, to open up my weaving and slide that end right down in there. Gives me a nice finished edge. I'm going to repeat the same thing over here, about halfway in the middle of my spoke. Lift up my twining and shove that end down in there. Pack it in tight. Now if this is a little bit too long, just come in here and snip it out. There we have our base. Now we're going to upset, and remember that's just bending our uprights up, making our spokes go upright all the way around. The wrong side of the reed is up on all these pieces so that I have a nice smooth finish on the outside. Now I'm going to take a piece of 3/16 flat, and I'm going to put a taper on it. Starting back here about 4 inches, I'm going to come in here and just put a taper on it. I'm going to start wider down here, work my way down in until I'm small and almost completely narrowed right down to nothing. Work my basket across here, and starting, I like to start with this piece under. So I'm going to put it under. Usually we start with it on top, but in this case, because we're going to do a continuous weave, we're going to start with it under. Make sure the right side of your reed is facing out. Now there's nothing to hold this row together, so it's going to look kind of sloppy. I use some clothespins to help shape it on this first row. Come around here. When I get back to where I began, I'm going to be on the opposite weave. This is the one that I'm under, and I'm coming around here, and now I'm on the opposite weave. That's because we have that odd number spoke in there. Now start packing these down tight. You're still going to need a few clothespins to help hold it. We want a nice round shape. Keep it nice and round with the shape of our basket, with the shape of our base here. Pack things down in tight. I can feel it starting to take a shape by itself right now, which is good. That's what we're aiming for. Keep packing things down in tight. This basket I made for my mom for her birthday, and I put it full of mini muffins and a pretty little napkin in it, and I gave it to her for her birthday. She really enjoyed that. You see how this is starting to hold its shape now? I'm not going to need those clothespins on. I'm starting my 3rd row. You're going to weave for 5 rows. This bottom has a 5-row base on it. Now that it's starting to hold itself, I can see that it's really taking a nice round shape. I've already got the 5 rows done on my next basket here. And to end it, this is where I started it. I'm under this spoke here. So I'm going to end it on top. I'm going to weave one more. End it on top over here and cut it off. Now I'm going to go in and get my flat oval that I have dyed a pretty color. Start with a flat end, and I'm coming back here just one and hiding it behind the one there. Now I'm going to go into my twill pattern, which is over 2, under 2. And that's the twill. It's very easy to start this pattern. Over 2, under 2. And when I come back to where I started, I should be over one that's the twill isn't on, and then over the next one, And the two here that the twill are over, I'm going to be dividing. That's kind of a double check. You can check yourself and make sure you're on that twill. And as you go up, you'll see the stair steps forming. A twill forms the stair steps. Doing it this way, our stair steps is going to be going up to the left. And you'll see that once we start getting into the twill. And we do a few rows here. Always over 2, under 2, just a basic twill pattern. Let me do a couple of rows for you. I think we're probably far enough along where you can start seeing the twill form. See the stair step pattern that it's creating? Okay, I have this already done. Let me do a couple more rows here. And you can see that stair step forming. And I think if at this point, if you make a mistake in doing your twill, it'll be easy to catch it. You're going to twill for a total of 14 rows. You're going to be twilling up for 14 rows. Okay, we're going to go to another basket where I've got the twill finished. And after I finished my twill, I ended it again over here. If I can find my ending here, I've ended it under. Can you see that? After I ended it under, I took my 3/16 and started it on top, or hid it, and it's hidden under this spoke here. And then I went back to an over-under single weave, just over one, under one weave. It will form the pattern as you go along, and it'll go back up to just that regular weave. Then I want you to do 7 rows. 7 rows up there. When you get back to the top, you're going to end it with a taper, just like we did, about 3 to 4 inches, and you're going to weave that taper right out. And I like to end this taper approximately on the spoke that I started it on. Okay, now we have to cut and tuck the top. If the spoke is behind a weaver, it's going to be cut off flush with the top. If the spoke is in front of the weaver, you're going to leave it on. It's going to bend and tuck. So I'm going to go around here, and I'm going to cut these off. Because we have an odd number of spokes, we're going to come to a spot where we're going to have 2 tucks. And I'll show you where that is just as soon as I come to it. Okay, it's right here. This is a cutoff. This is the one my spoke is underneath, my weaver's underneath, and this one is where it ends. So those 2 together, I'm going to tuck both of those together. So those are going to tuck down. Now these are too long, so I know I can cut these off some. Using a flathead screwdriver, I'm going to come in here, skip over my first row of weaving, and work that tip down in there a couple of rows to hold it down in there. To make it a little bit easier, I can go around and just do all of them like that. I want you to tuck and cut your whole top like that. I've left one here. Once you have them all cut and tuck, you're going to find your center. Because we have an odd number, it's not going to be quite a dead center, but you're going to find your 2 center spokes and the 2 that come up on the other side. Take your handle. These are the little ears. They usually come with off from the wire. So you're going to loop your ears on there. You're going to have to take this and bend it just a little bit and put an arch on it, going in towards the basket. And then this piece simply slides under one of the cut and tuck loops. You may have to pull one out, and you're going to tuck under here. So this is the other one that I'm cutting and tucking, and that's going to hold that in. Then we're ready to put our rim on. In just a minute, I'm having trouble tucking, there we go, tucking that one down in there. Now we're going to come in and take our flat oval and we're going to put our rim on. We're going to whittle this down for about 3 inches, starting away from my handle pieces where my ears are. We're going to just go around and put this on, clamp it on, overlap where I did the whittling and cut it off, and do the very same thing for the inside. Whittle it down about 3 inches. Now the flat side is going to face the basket, and I'm working that around, and I'm going to make sure that my little ears are sticking up there so that I can swing my handle. Oops. And I'm going to cut this off where I did my overlap again, where I did that whittling. I like to insert some seagrass up here, and I have number 5 seagrass. Insert it up in here to cover up the work inside. It makes a nice filler. I'm using caning today. On my little basket sample here, I used 11/64 flat oval. That's not always readily available, so caning works just as fine. We're going to come up in here, up from the bottom. We've been over this a lot. Make sure you go underneath your seagrass, because we want all this work to be hidden under the seagrass. And we're going to go through here. Now keep in mind, because of that taper that we have, that we're going to have to jump down one as we weave along. And I think when you come to that, you'll kind of understand that. Bring this across here. You're going to cross on the top of each one of your spokes. I'm going to straighten this out. I like to put a point on the other end because it travels easier. I have 2 rows of weaving underneath my handle piece, underneath my rim piece, I'm sorry. Bring this end around, and I like to start it again. You can even start it several times in here. 2 rows underneath my rim. Then I come back here, and let me straighten this out. Let me clamp this out of the way, and I'm going to give this a tug back in here. Pull this length through. It's going to get a little bit tangled on you. So just take your time and untangle it and pull it through. Now make sure you're coming over your seagrass. Give it a tug, bring it across, and I'm going to pull this end again down here. When I come to my handle, I want to make sure that I exit. I single lashed my sample here. Make sure you X where we have that ear placed in there. I need to bring my seagrass over a little bit, and I'm going to butt it up to my ear. Now I can either butt it up to my ear, or I can just go around my ear like that. Then you're going to finish up your lashing. Remember, we end the lashing the same way we started it, and you're going to have a nice little gift, or keep it yourself. I'm at my handle here. Let me take just a second here and show you how to go around it. I need to bring up my other end and butt it up here, and then I can end the basket or work the lashing around that way. The basket that we'll be working on next week when we're together is going to be an oval basket with a Japanese weave. I've added some color to it, but one of its main attractions is this beautiful strip of walnut that I put in it. Put a little Scandi straw up here. Has a swing handle with some buttons on it. Very pretty little basket. Oval shape, fun to work with. We'll look for you again next week.